Hi, this is another little short on curriculum development and approval process, which kind of follows chapter 2. In your book, a lot of the concepts we already did talk about during the first presentation that was done. So this one is just a little bit um, in addition to that. As an introduction, it's the responsibility of all faculty members to be responsible for the curriculum. Everyone has to work together to recognize the complexity of developing a curriculum. There's a great need for interprofessional collaboration when we talk about the full curriculum development and having courses where students are given the opportunities to work with the other healthcare professionals as they would in real practice. It is an ever-changing healthcare system, and it is becoming requirements of regulatory and accreditation bodies that we do include more interactive interprofessional activities into the whole curriculum. And again, it's really how do we teach the reality of practice to give the actual idea of what it's like to work in healthcare. Instead, we tend to have these creation of silos where, every faculty that gets their course takes it, interprets the objectives their own way. When it goes to updating the course, they update the course, but they don't look at how it fits into the whole picture of the curriculum. Whereas we have to understand that all the faculty own every course that makes up that curriculum and has to know when changes are going to be made to make sure that it is a good integration into the course. When one person is making changes, it leads to an additive, redundant, and overburdened curriculum if everybody doesn't know what's going on. Really, assignments shouldn't be standing alone. They should be formative and scaffolded within the whole curriculum. And it leads to more content gaps when people teach from their own comfort zone and may not include all material, and faculty lose sense of that whole curriculum. Here's a process and curriculum development diagram which shows, the school curriculum committee is the first one that's going to start planning the curriculum, and it's really important that we have a lot of input from students and stakeholders like people in the community, the people that are going to employ the students, as to what they feel are important essentials in curriculum. Then, of course, once the committee comes up with a curriculum, it has to go to the whole faculty for their approval. Again, the whole faculty owns the curriculum. Then it would go to the college division curriculum and then on to the university and on to the provost for approval. But with nursing curriculums, we also have to send everything to the State Board of Nursing and our accrediting bodies to make sure that they find that the curriculum, does pass muster as far as what their rules and regulations are. Faculty development is really important to think of as actually part of that curriculum development process, because a lot of times it helps in faculty in learning in the different types of courses and how the curriculum does fit together, and each course is becoming a part of the other. So when working with that, it helps to sometimes bring in consultants to do a lot of education. The problem with faculty development is there's a lot of budgetary constraints, and that is one of the first thing that can be gone. But it's important to manage the content and make sure there's not overload and that you are following the CUSIN essentials traditions, and you're not the CUSIN essentials mandates instead of following tradition, and to incorporate technology and to do student-centered versus faculty-centered education. Some of the faculty issues are fear and resistance to change. A lot of times each faculty member has a different value and belief about what curriculum should be and what needs to be done, and a lot of times they become very strong in their opinions and not willing to compromise, and that becomes a real problem. Like people that have done things one way, fear of loss of control, that they may not know what's really happening in the world today. I heard one faculty member say she just takes her course, dusts it off, brings it, teaches it every semester without even changing it. And that's a course on pharmacology. How can you do that? I mean, that changes all the time. So what are personal agendas? And when change is threatening to people, then there sometimes can be, sabotage about what you're trying to do. There's also lack of rewards and resources, and of course, time. Who gets the time to sit together and do these curriculum? So more faculty issues would be, that there is that disconnect with the reality of practice. How do we practice cultural competency in teaching and in curriculum development? We have to understand that there is a culture of nursing faculty. there is a culture of the students that are coming for the curriculum, and we have to take it and work it for the culture of the students and not the culture of the faculty. We have to change for them because they're the consumers of our product. We cannot not change our product and continue to give the same thing when society is changing all around us. Lack of education in education is a lot of it. A lot of people have a false sense of knowing because I've been going through nursing education, I know how to do it. Or that sense of entitlement. Well, I went through it, you have to go through it. Sometimes it's even lack of oversight, and that we're really not, taking consequences of when curriculum isn't changed. So there's a lot of barriers that, we have increasing the volume of information, faculty-student gap in technology, where sometimes the students are more computer savvy than the faculty are. Then there's the generational variances of where a lot of the students have grown up using their technology constantly and are very comfortable with it and not comfortable with doing having education from some of the old lecture stances or handouts and multiple readings of chapters when they may not have been reading books because they do all their reading online and they're used to digital kinds of study aids. So, the faculty are aging and there is a faculty shortage. So how do we, bring new blood into the profession? Some of the innovations, high fidelity simulations are becoming a real requirement to be put into curriculums. One of the things is to have dedicated education units where we can work within institutions that are really welcoming to the students and really will work on their education to show them real time, real life activity of what it is to work with a patient load, to have the nurses that are actually caring for the patients and managing their care, working with the students instead of giving fragmented care of, we'll take this patient and give medications, or we'll take that patient and not really doing cohesive care, because as a faculty member to have 10 students and 10 patients, it really is unrealistic to think that you can deliver whole care to all of those patients, but having them work with the staff will give them more of a reality on what nursing is really like. So more innovative pedagogical practices are needed. Of course, there's definitely lots of implementation issues when we do try to have innovative practice. A lot of times everyone goes to conferences and they come back with all these great ideas, but they don't get the time to really plan them and figure out how they're going to implement them or have the resources to do them. So what happens is, because of these time constraints, we just go back to doing what we've always done. And that's one of the real issues with, doing things that are best practice, is we have to take the time and really push that implementation in to be able to evaluate it and, take the cost of what it's going to do as far as time and resources. That we really need the education to make these changes and get all faculty to buy in so that everybody is, coming across with the same ideas and attitudes, and we don't show conflict among each other. So those are some of the barriers with these multi-leveled institutional hierarchies, because sometimes when you go to change a curriculum or make changes to a course or even some of the types of resources we use, you have to go through committees. And a lot of times that committee process is so long that by the time you get what you want approved, there's something else that's new. So again, that's an issue. Then of course, what is our relationship with the healthcare facilities where we need to have clinical sites? There's a lot of competition for clinical sites, and they're providing barriers that are very hard to overcome at times. Then the regulatory agencies, they don't really have specified clinical hours and simulation hours, but we may see more mandating as we see the need for more residency programs, and maybe possibly have some clinical competency examinations that our students will need to pass before becoming licensed. So accreditation is really an important aspect because it's there to assure and improve quality. If we're not accredited, you will not get access to federal and state funds, so your students won't get financial aid. By showing accreditation, you promote public trust in your program. A student can easily transfer between institutions from one accredited program to another. It does guarantee that you are meeting at least some minimal standards, and it requires colleges and universities to do self-studies to really reflect on their own practice to see that they're meeting the standards. And then, of course, on-site visitors will come and look through everything and talk to students and faculty and, really evaluate whether there's standard compliance. So it really is in need of our ongoing monitoring. So accreditation is an important process. And I guess I have Well, anyways, I don't know which site here or something of that nature, because I should be talking about nursing accrediting bodies now, and I'm not sure why I'm not. But we will start talking about nursing accrediting bodies. So there's two main agencies that do accredit nursing, and that is what was originally that National League of Nursing Education that became the National League for Nursing Accrediting, and then it became the Accrediting Commission for Education in Nursing. So they do all diploma and associate and baccalaureate, whereas the AACN is the American Association of Colleges of Nursing, and they have the Commission on College Nursing Education that does their accrediting, and they only do BSN programs. Then, of course, there are regulatory agencies like the National Council of the State Boards of Nursing, and you have to know that the State Boards of Nursing are responsible for enacting the State Nurse Practice Acts, which can be individual and different in each state. State licensure requirements are very individual. You can just take the thing about renewal requirements is different in Kansas and Missouri, whereas in Kansas you need 30 credits of continuing ed to renew your license, and Missouri you need none. So they're really different in practices. Of course, state government has regulations, and they are the ones that are responsible for governing the state boards of nursing, and it's very multi-layered as far as that kind of process. And of course, the federal government has the Department of Education that can come in and monitor programs. They've always got that right because they're giving federal assistance. Well, I think that's about the end, and pretty much all I've got to say, although I don't really know how well this one turned out because I was experimenting with this voiceover because I couldn't get Novio to work. Problems with education too is when you plan all these things for your curriculum implementation and innovations, a lot of times you have problems with technology, and then it takes twice as much time to do things as it should. Anyways, that's my bone of contention right now because I've been spending too much time doing this than I should have been. So if you can hear it, great. If not, I'll probably have to redo it. But have a good week, and let me know if you have any questions about anything.